Today, I'm sharing a few fun and easy patriotic DIYs using mostly Dollar Tree finds. It's perfect for adding a little red, white, and blue to your space. Let's jump right in. For the first DIY, I'm using a wood board from a Dollar Tree hanging shelf kit. These are super versatile and they work great as a base. I'm also using some of these giant craft sticks and they're a little over 10 inches long. I get these at Walmart and I'll be using about 11 of them for this project. First, I'm laying the craft sticks out side by side so they're all lined up. I want them to fit neatly on top of the wood board, so I place a board right on top and I mark where I need to trim. Once all the sticks are marked, I stack them together and tape them up so they stay aligned, and then I use my miter box and saw to trim them all in one go. It's a super quick way to get clean, even cuts. On a couple of the sticks, I also had to trim just a little off the sides to get a cleaner fit on the board. Once everything was nicely cut, I started laying the trimmed craft sticks back over the board to make sure they were lined up side by side. Then I glued them down using hot glue. Some of the sticks were a little curved or warped, so using hot glue helped them lay flat. I just made sure to hold them down for a few seconds before moving on to the next one. And that just made it look very uniform and polished. I'm going to stain the wood using this water-based stain from Wreath in the shade Dark Walnut. It's a stain and poly combo, so it gives the wood a really nice finish. So I'm applying it all over with a foam brush, also making sure to get it in between the craft sticks. I did about 2 coats, and once everything is dried, it's time to move on to the next part. I grabbed several of these metal star ornaments from Dollar Tree. I grabbed a red, white, and blue one, and each comes with 2. I'll be using one of each color, and the others I'll be saving for another project. Now I'm clipping off that little circle hook at the top of each star. We won't be needing that part, as well as the beads. I'll be gluing the metal stars onto the board, but instead of laying them flat, I wanted to give them a bit of a lift. So I'm hot gluing a small wooden bead underneath each star to raise it up just slightly. Once the bead is in place, I hot glue them right on the board. You can line the stars up vertically or horizontally. It's totally up to you and what you like best. To finish it off, you can add a hanger on the back or just prop it up. And that's it. It's super simple and adds such a patriotic touch wherever you put it. For this DIY, I'll be using this metal wreath frame from Dollar Tree. This one's about 14 inches, so I thought the size was perfect. I also grabbed a couple of Dollar Tree's Patriotic ribbons. One was a solid blue and the other was a red, white, and blue plaid. I ended up switching out the plaid for this red and white checkered ribbon I already had. It's also from Dollar Tree, and honestly, I just like the look of it better. I'm cutting the ribbons to about 7 inches, and I'm using a ruler to make sure I cut each one all uniform. Now you can totally go longer if you want it fluffier, but with the amount of ribbon I had, 7 inches was just the length needed to make sure I had enough and didn't run out of ribbon. I think I ended up with around 14 or 15 pieces total. Then I did the same thing with a blue ribbon, measured and cut each strip to the same 7-inch length, and I ended up cutting about 15 strips. Once everything was cut, I started adding some pleats to each ribbon. I'm doing about 3 pleats per strip, starting with 1 in the center, then 1 on each side of that. To make a pleat, I just pinch the ribbon together where I want the fold, and then I press it flat with my fingers. It's super quick and it doesn't have to be perfect. Then I just add a little dot of hot glue to hold each pleat in place. I also make sure that each strip still measures at least 6 inches, just so I can still wrap it around the wreath frame without any trouble. Okay, so once I'm done with the blues, I just do the same thing with the red and white. Of course, you can totally switch up the ribbon to fit your style, like burlap, satin, or glitter ribbon. It all adds character. I actually saw something really similar in Pottery Barn that used burlap, which is where I got the inspiration for this project. To glue the ribbon onto the wreath, I flip the frame upside down because I want the seams to be on the back where you can't see them. Then I just attach the ribbon together with a strip of hot glue. I'm making sure the top part of the ribbon is pulled tight and sits right up against a wreath frame. That keeps it nice and secure. Then I let the rest of the ribbon hang loose at the bottom so it naturally flares out and gives the wreath a bit more shape and fullness. I'm alternating the ribbons as I go, one red and white, then one blue, and repeating that all the way around. This keeps the pattern balanced and helps the colors really pop against each other. It actually went pretty fast once I got into the rhythm. Just glue it down, press it in place, and move on to the next one. Once all the ribbons are attached, I go back and add a little hot glue in between just to make sure everything stays in place and doesn't shift around. Now at this point you can leave it as is and just attach a ribbon at the top to hang it, or if you want to add a little something extra, you can tie on one or even all three of those metal stars we used in the first DIY, or even place them right on top of the ribbons for a layered look. Either way, stars or no stars, it all turns out super cute and it's such a simple project. For this DIY, I'm making a sign and I'm using another one of Dollar Tree's hanging shelves. It comes with a metal ring and a piece of cord for hanging, but I won't be using those for this project. I'll also be using these 5-gallon paint stir sticks. I picked up a pack of 3 from my local hardware store, Lowe's, and this will make the border of the frame. So to make the frame, I just lay the stir sticks directly on top of the board to figure out the sizing. I mark where each one needs to be trimmed so they'll fit around the edges like a picture frame. Once I've got my marks, I trim them down. The sticks had those white ruler marks on one side, but since that side's going to be facing the back, I didn't stress about it too much, but I did give them a quick sanding just to lighten them up a bit. Now before I start staining, I'm just taking note of the areas where I'll be applying glue later. I really want to avoid getting stain there so that the glue sticks better. Now I'm staining the frame using a water-based stain from Behr in the shade Special Walnut. This is just one that I had on hand and I love using it. I'm applying it with a cloth that's just a little damp, not soaking wet because I wanted the stain to go on light at first. It was a little too light for what I wanted, so I ended up going over it with another stain, very thin Stain Plus Poly in dark walnut, and that gave it a deeper, richer color with a really nice finish, and I ended up liking that look way better. For the wood board, I'm giving it a coat of white paint just to create a clean background to start with. I'm using white acrylic paint for this part. This one's from Apple Barrel and I'm just dabbing it on with a round sponge brush. I'm getting the paint close to the edges, but I do leave a little bit unpainted on the ends since that's where I'll be gluing later. Now I decided to use my Cricut to cut out the phrase, "God shed his grace on thee," to make a stencil. And I just typed it out on Cricut canvas. I'm using vinyl from Dollar Tree for this part. It's super affordable, which is nice. So I place that right in the center of the wood board, and I'll be using black chalk paint over the stencil because it pops so well against a white background. It gives it a beautiful, clean contrast. After that, I just peel off the vinyl and weed out any little pieces inside the letters. I love the sticky back because it really helps prevent any paint bleeding underneath. Finally, I'm attaching the frame. I run a thin line of glue along each edge of the board, just right where the paint stir sticks will sit. I try not to use too much, just enough to hold it in place without oozing out on the sides. I'm also applying some glue along the edge of the shorter wood pieces. Then I attach the paint sticks along the edge of the board, starting with the 2 horizontal pieces and then the 2 shorter ones. And I wedge those right in between. Now you can attach a hanger on the back if you want to hang like a sawtooth hanger, or glue some wood pieces on the bottom back to help hold it upright. Another option, you can attach the metal star sign to the top or bottom to make an even larger sign. Just make sure to adjust the direction of the top of the star. And we are all done. I saw these adorable wooden stars with a little beaded tassel at Dollar Tree, and I thought they'd be perfect for my next DIY. I just love the look of them, and I think they'll make such a cute little accent piece for your decor. Now, I really do like the tassel it comes with, but it looked a little too small and sparse for what I had in mind, so I decided to make my own using some jute cord I had on hand, just to give it a fuller, more finished look. So first I'm removing the string from the back. It's definitely stapled on there pretty well, so what helped was cutting the string off first and then using some pliers to roll out whatever was left behind. After that, I grabbed my heavy-duty staple remover to get the staples out completely. Of course, you could skip this part and leave the staple as is, but I wanted the back to be nice and smooth. Now, I had a couple of options for what to use to make my tassel, but since the star is a good size, I ended up going with a thicker jute cord. To make this tassel, I'm just wrapping the jute around this small wooden board I had on hand. It's about 6 inches wide. I wrapped it around about 10 times, but that part really depends on how full you want your tassel to look. Once I had enough loops, I snipped the end, carefully slid the whole thing off, and tied a little knot, which will be the top of the tassel. Then I cut through the loops and the bottom to open it up and give it that classic tassel shape. To make the ends of the tassel, I take some thinner jute string and wrap it about an inch down from the top. I just add a little hot glue to hold the end in place, and then I wrap it around until it's about ½ an inch thick. To finish it off, you can add a little glue on the end to help hold it in place, but personally, I like to thread the end through the center using a yarn needle for a cleaner finish. Then I just give the ends of the tassel a little trim to even everything out. To add a little pop of gold, I'm applying some rub and buff to the top of the star. I don't want to cover the whole thing, I still want that base color to show through, so I'm using a tiny bit on a foam brush that I trimmed down. Then I just slightly rub it over the raised edges of the star for that pretty brushed gold look. I also added a little to the sides too, just to tie it all together and give it a more finished look. After that, I went back and buffed it with a clean cloth, which really brings out the shine and gives it that pretty metallic finish. I'm keeping that natural wood and red combo, but I wanted to add a few more beads to the tassel, especially some extra red ones. So I used a few beads I already had on hand. I'm painting several of them using this crimson chalk paint. Instead of mixing them with the red beads it came with, I decided to paint a fresh set so everything looks nice and uniform. Next, I'm stringing the beads through the tassel's jute string, just alternating the red and natural wood. After that, I'm gluing the tassel and the beads to the bottom of the star, and I'm just hot gluing the end of the cord on the back of the star. Then I string 5 beads to make the top part, again alternating the colors and hot gluing that in place too. I also added a simple loop on the top to finish it off, and that's it. This quick little DIY is done, and it makes such a cute accent piece for your shelves or trays or even hanging on a hook. And with a neutral wood and red combo, you could definitely bring it out later in the end of the year as well. The last DIY is going to be a quick and simple one. I'm repurposing a grapevine wreath I used in a previous project a few videos back. I had it all dressed up with some pretty flowers and a welcome sign right in the center. So I carefully removed the flowers but kept the wooden sign in place. So now I have a blank canvas to work with. I'll be using a couple of these greenery bouquets from Dollar Tree, and I'm just tucking them into the wreath towards the bottom and placing 2 of them opposite each other, making sure to leave a little space in the center. I'm not really using hot glue to hold the greenery in place, I'm just weaving the stems through the grapevine wreath. But if you feel like things need a little extra hold or shaping, you can always use hot glue or some floral wire to help. For the center, I'm adding this large burlap bow with red, white, and blue stars. I found it at Dollar Tree too, and I'm just using some hot glue to attach it right in the middle. To finish it off, I decided to add a few small wooden stars around the empty part of the wreath. I'm painting them with white chalk paint, but to get that weathered rustic look, I'm just dry brushing the paint on lightly, just enough to let some of that natural wood peek through. That way I don't even need to sand it afterwards. Then I staggered them around the top part of the wreath and glue them down. You can attach a ribbon on the top to hang it or just hook it onto a wreath holder. And that's it. This quick and simple wreath is done. If you liked today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, let me know in the comments below what you'd like me to DIY next. Until next time, bye!